Total Drama World Tour has ended, and I'm here to share my thoughts because I think it needs to be said. I have to admit, actually, I was fairly disappointed with this season. Now, I'm here. Now, before I continue, I do want to say this. Although I was disappointed, I actually did not think that this season was god-awful. I don't think this was a season that was so bad that it dragged the series down into the ground or anything. But I actually did think it was a pretty big step down from the first two seasons. Now, I've actually been a fairly big fan of the show. I'm a helper on the wiki. I do fan comics on my DeviantArt account. I own the first season. So, I really have loved this show. I'd put it in my top 5 favorite cartoons. The first being Invader Zim. Also, this review will contain spoilers because it has ended in Australia and the United States. So, if you haven't seen it and you don't want spoilers, well, this is going to contain spoilers. So, go. Oh, don't continue if you want spoilers. So, anyway, as I was saying, I really love this show. I have looked up on the blog, and this was also the show that pursued me to get back into animation, and from it I created a number of animations currently found on my YouTube account, like Mighty Morphing Democrat Rangers, Benny the Democratic Alien, 13 Ghosts and an Emotionless Emo, and 2 upcoming ones which I will start in December when winter break hits. Stephen King Tells a Bedtime Story and The Dead News. But moving on, to start things off, going through a recap, the first season of the show was an excellent start. A wonderful start. It was funny, had all these characters, twisted plot lines, and is a seriously awesome cartoon. The second season was an excellent successor to it. It evolved some characters who hadn't been talked about or given very much screen time or development in the first season, and gave them development. And it had the best season finale of the entire show, in my opinion. I was a little disappointed with the finale, but I was a little disappointed with some events over the season, but when I saw the finale, all my problems were washed away. Well, now coming to this season, I'll start off by saying a few of the positive things. I did think the musical notes were very good. I was actually quite afraid of them and thought they'd all be like classical dancing and stuff, but they were actually pretty good. I also liked how certain characters like Noah, Cody, and Heather were much more likable this season. Let's see. Hey, I also liked how they made the show much bigger, traveling around from location to location, led to an interesting surprise every episode. It was like, where were they going to go next? And so for that, it gets full props. But now on to the critiques. Oh, and one more thing also. The aftermaths this season actually played a vital role in the story, which actually makes me question why on earth did Cartoon Network only show them on the web. I mean, this time they actually played an important role, and you know, you miss parts by having it only online. But now on to the main criticism. Basically, what I feel was the biggest problem. First of all, I was pretty nervous to hear that Todd and Mark weren't going to return. They had directed, both of them together had directed the first season, and Mark alone directed the second season. And I also heard Jennifer and Tom, the creators, were a lot less involved in the show, and it shows this time. What the biggest fault of this season, I think, is they were A, trying to be different, and B, trying too hard to please the fans. What I really think, and when I mean, and with difference here, different doesn't always mean bad. I'm not one of those people who gets mad every time something is changed. I actually approved in Transformers when they changed the formula and characters for the third season. It was actually nice to see something fresh and new. Change isn't always bad, but this season it really shows. First of all, coming to my comment about pleasing the fans, I blame a lot of this season's problems on Duncan, the juvie punk. Now, I like Duncan. He's been one of my absolute favorite characters. I really like Duncan. But this season, they just messed up with him. First of all, he was the first person eliminated in the first episode. And I thought, good choice there. I mean, let's look at this. Duncan has literally been in every single episode of the first two seasons. He won the second season. Obviously, they're not going to have the same person win twice. So, it was a good choice to have him eliminated head first, because we probably know about Duncan more than any other character. Good choice there. Eliminating Duncan to give other people a chance to shine. But then, later in the season, they bring him back to create this terrible, just terrible love triangle. It was all an attempt to get Duncan and Gwen together, because fans in the second season just love the Duncan and Gwen and couple. So that's what this entire love triangle was all about. Just getting them together. Where does this become a problem? Well, they bring him in at the absolute worst time, cause this immediate conflict between Gwen and Courtney and Duncan. And they all just go fighting, get mad at each other, and it distracts from the humor, and just doesn't make the show fun. It stained the show, and was the central plot line of 5 or 6 episodes, maybe even more, and just distracts from the humor. You don't watch this show to see people fight. Now, here's where it gets even better. Let's compare that to the second season, with the Gwen and Trent conflict. Both of them had this conflict, and they were breaking up. So, we had all this sad conflict in the second season, but let's compare it. That happened at the beginning of the second season. And therefore, it took about 5 or 6 episodes, but it was at the beginning. They got it out of the way, and we could move on with the fun. In addition, if this love triangle was so important, then why couldn't they have just done it when all 3 of them were on the set, were on the plane together, instead of going through all this trouble of bringing Duncan back and just starting this conflict? And it just it just takes up all of this screen time and just doesn't make the show fun. And it really didn't even start to get interesting until, it didn't get to be fun again when all of the characters of this love triangle were eliminated. This also bites into the character development of other characters. Characters like Noah, Tyler, DJ, Izzy are just shoved out of the plane, and all to make room for this love triangle. For these 3 characters who, oh by the way, have gotten tons of character development in the past. Yes. What I was really counting on this season is, in case that nobody knows this yet, the 4th season is supposed to have a completely new cast of characters. They're going to take away this old cast and replace it with a whole new cast. Well, if you're going to do that, you better make sure that all of these characters are at their fullest. Yes, that they all should be developed to the absolute fullest, and make it so we can let them go. That's what I was counting on this season. Now, if they release a special which further helps wrap them up, then my opinion about this season might change. But until then, no. There were tons of characters who were either taken out early in the 2nd season and needed more development. Primarily, I bring this over to DJ and Izzy. DJ needed development, and so did Izzy. In the 1st season, Izzy was more like this crazy, hyperactive girl who talked real fast and was always open to new experiences. But then in the 2nd season, she started to have this change where she would just go off and start doing her own thing. It was still funny, but it didn't contribute very much to the plot. I was really expecting to see her this season, and actually start playing a role and contributing to challenges. DJ also. In the 2nd season, DJ actually started playing this softy, nice guy who was afraid of everything. But I think people forget. In the 1st season, DJ wasn't all that kind. At least the way he was made out to be in the 2nd season. And in the 1st season, DJ was portrayed more as a fun camper that you could easily make friends with. He was nice to animals, he got along pretty well with all the other campers, and he wasn't afraid to show some edge. He would actually go after Harold and prank him because he left his underwear around. And that actually showed quite a bit about DJ. Even though he was nice, he knew to do justice to someone if they really deserved it. I think a lot of people forgot about that. Sure, he was afraid of the horror movies and stuff, but I know plenty of people who are afraid of horror movies. That was like a moment of weakness, and even then, it was still funny, and he was still willing, and, he didn't just run around crying, sucking his thumb.